That's right, and hoping to stay unified on this. And what's interesting about their response to this 90-day pause, John, is not just that they're pausing what they were planning to do with regard to the reciprocal tariffs, which has been paused, but they're also stopping the rest of their responses. So, for instance, American tariffs on steel and aluminium of 25% remain on European companies. Europeans agreed yesterday on their response to that. They've decided to pause rolling out that response.
What? You're not a radical feminist? That's what bothers me. Hassan becoming a radical trans feminist would be nice, to be honest, but I don't even know where he stands on actual feminist theory right now. Yeah, this is what I mean, guys. This is literally what I mean. This is what I'm talking about, which is that, like, no, there is a limit to my output here. Okay, there's a limit to my brain. There's a limit here, and that limit is, you know, be nice to women. That's it. Like, if you think I'm gonna be I don't know, equipped with like dworkin thought, then yeah, I don't know. Probably not gonna happen. CDU and SPD are cutting social benefits as you predicted. Nice. Yeah. Your take about auto AGP is still bad? What? No, my take about AGP is not bad because you 100% agree with my take on it. You're just too stupid to fucking recognize what I just said. And you immediately heard me say it's okay to put bad concepts because human beings are bad and wrong in movies, but you didn't understand what I was saying, and you just lasered in on one side of that fucking commentary and immediately started dialing it up to 11. I'm not saying this is an appropriate thought. I'm simply saying inappropriate and wrong and reactionary thoughts should still very much be placed in fucking works, in normal works of art, because they're a part of the human condition. Having said that, Mike White's placement of the AGP rhetoric was clearly from a reactionary perspective, where he tried to intellectualize a transphobic opinion, like a ooh, I'm a bad boy. Look at what I know. That's it. That's all I'm stating. So it was a shallow analysis from an outsider. Okay, and most people don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. Anyway, shut up. It's crazy to hear Normans talk about AGP. Trans people barely do unless they have 4chan brainworms. I know. That's why I said, like, this is deep trans lore. You know what I mean? It's just like deep trans lore. It's just outdated, old school, fucking neo-Nazi created initial trans research that's just like anti-trans. That's what it is. All right, let's keep going. We're talking about fucking the EU and tariffs.
On the automobile and auto parts industry remain on Europe. For now, Europeans are also holding back. So a lot of restraint really being shown by the European Union here. They've really stopped all of the measures, both the ones they'd agreed on and the ones they were considering for now. Have a listen to what the Spanish Prime Minister had to say in response.
Nobody wins a trade war. Everybody loses. For this, the measure announced by the US administration, pending review of the exact details, seemed like an open door for negotiation, and as such to an agreement between countries.
So Europeans hopeful that negotiations can be reached, that negotiations can begin on all of these matters, but they also explain that they're going to continue to work together to look at very firm measures on both the automobile tariffs and the so-called reciprocals, so that if in 90 days, when that period comes to an end, should the American ones kick in, the Europeans should be ready to respond, and to respond very harshly, as we discussed yesterday. But for now, very much looking to see whether this pause.
Yeah, EU and China were looking at setting minimum prices on electric vehicles. So this was a major problem that, if you recall, I talked about quite extensively. Ursula von der Leyen was a year ago complaining about how China was stealing Europe's lunch money with their incredibly cheap, incredibly affordable, and very competitive electric vehicles. And if left unchecked, that the entire European manufacturing would fall apart because people would simply go and purchase Chinese vehicles, because it's impossible for European markets to compete with the affordable, accessible, and also good quality Chinese vehicles that are out there, readily available. Donald Trump, of course, in this major five-head move, blowing up international trade, has made the European Union reconsider their position, and also even forced China's hand to basically raise its prices for its electric vehicles, so that it doesn't outcompete the European market too much. This is one of those moments where I think the EU is playing ball. They're playing ball with China a little bit. EU Trade Chief Sefcovic, Chinese Commerce Minister Wang have agreed to look into setting minimum prices rather than duties for China. Made EV imports Commission spokesperson says. I did not think that they would do this. I will admit, and I still don't think that they're going to follow through on this. I think potentially this is a move by the European Union to show America that they are not afraid of China in an effort to bring America back to the table and reconsider the way that it's treating the EU. I would be shocked if the European Union was like, actually, we're not afraid of Chinese style governance. We like what they're doing and we want to do it ourselves as well. That would be shocking because that would undermine American hegemony in spectacular fashion.
Was equals the beginning of negotiations.
Yeah, this is very much a case of what happens next. Melissa Bell in Paris today. Thanks so much for being with us.
Trump's reversal
I think this is a bluff.
led to an historic surge on Wall Street yesterday. U.S. markets, though, right now, let's take a look. Well, I'm going to go this direction. They are not in surge territory, if you will. Futures are down across the board. The White House is spinning this as all a kind of big win and part of a grand strategy by President Trump. Others, though, are saying that, well, he caved, he backtracked, and he retreated on demands that only he made, and a self-inflicted wound. The nation's biggest bank, J.P. Morgan Chase, is still sounding the alarm, even in the face of this move by Donald Trump about a possible recession this year. CNN's Zain Asher here with us now to talk about, and there has been a lot. I mean, what happens next is where everyone's mind has to be, especially when we're looking at futures like this. I mean, what is expected now with this U-turn, backtrack, and buckling of President Trump?
So I spoke to one analyst last night who said to me, can we please have a normal day on the markets?
No.
Just one normal day, because we have earned it. Looking at where futures stand right now, the last I checked, Dow was down about 500 points or so. I'm going to guess, Kate, that today is not going to be that day. Yeah. Now that everyone has had an opportunity to really sort of sober up and digest what we saw yesterday, I mean, obviously everyone has gotten over the shock, positive shock, but the shock of Donald Trump pausing these tariffs for 90 days. But now that everyone's had a chance to sort of sober up, the reality is setting in. You look at the facts. We're seeing a 10% tariff still on most parts of the world.
That's 25, still historically high.
That is still historically high. Yeah. And on top of that, 25% tariff on steel, on aluminum, on autos as well, and not to mention the minor detail of triple-digit tariffs on China, with whom we import about $400 billion worth of goods every single year. What I think is really interesting is that you look at Dow futures, they're obviously down. You contrast that with what's happening with European stocks. If you could just pull up European stocks, squarely in the green. That's obviously because they're reacting to the 90-day pause, but also the fact that Europe is saying that they're not going to retaliate anymore. What I think is also interesting is what's happening with Asia stocks. Obviously, you would anticipate that the Asian stocks who are seeing tariff relief, so we could just...
What is this? EU? I really disagree about your EU China take. There's almost no fear of socialism from China. Rather, it's the potential of China acting like Trump by leveraging their monopoly on certain trade goods in the EU. Yeah, I just have a much more, look, I'm Turkish, okay? And as a Turkish person, my first interaction with Western chauvinism does not come from the United States of America, but instead comes from the European Union. So as a Turkish person, I'm also a little skeptical even when I hear Euro-communism coming from the likes of Yanis Varoufakis, who I love and admire, but when I see initiatives like DM25, sometimes I'm a little bit skeptical about that sort of thing because in my experience, in my lifetime, what I have always seen from the European Union is a commitment, not necessarily to upholding human rights and values or whatever, but a arrogant attitude surrounding their positioning as the bastion of liberal capitalism. Okay? It's just, this is how it's perceived here. All I'm saying, yes, EU is more fiscally conservative and capitalist, but the public discourse is really not about socialism? Yeah, but we're not talking about public discourse. We're talking about European elites. We're talking about governments. When we're talking about governments, the wishes of the population are irrelevant. Okay? I mean, look at the Israel situation. Do you think that the overwhelming majorities of all Western nations now have the same exact opinion on Israel as their leaders? No, of course not. Every country is turned into a fucking Gulf state at this point, where the population literally despises Israel by pretty large numbers, as a matter of fact. But the governments are like, no, what do you mean? We love Israel. Shut the fuck up. So for me, I think I'm saying that I have a little bit of resentment for sure that clouds my judgment from time to time. But I also have, I will always maintain a healthy level of skepticism against European leadership, because at the end of the day, the European Union is a vehicle for capitalism. It is. That's what it is. That's what the European Union is there to do. And so I think that when push comes to shove, I still believe that European leadership will not decouple from the United States of America and find themselves in the hands of China. Because if China became the hegemonic power, then European capital would be undermined in that process, because they would have to restructure their own internal governance to reflect Chinese values or the Chinese economic order. They would have to, can you imagine every European country behaving like China, having command economies? I mean, that would be amazing. I would love that. I'm just saying that probably wouldn't happen. I 100% believe the EU will decouple from the US if they make any moves towards taking Greenland. That would be awesome. Not the taking over Greenland. That would not be awesome. But I do think that, I mean, this is what I've been saying. I've been saying that the EU is also a fairly large consumption engine. Okay. America is as well, but the EU also is a pretty large market with a lot of purchasing power as opposed to the rest of the world, as opposed to the global South, right? That would be amazing if they did that. If they turned around and said, you know, this American dominance is over. We recognize that there's a new game in town. We've been around for much longer than the American government has. You know, you got what, 200 plus years? We've been around for thousands, and it's time. It's time to go with a new master. Now, that one can only dream of a future such as that one. Okay? One can only dream. But I do think that there's still a lot of, I still think that there's a lot of Orientalist framework here at play. And I talk to a lot of people that are not American. Let's just put it that way. I talk to a lot of people who understand the European Union, who just, I would say, the attitude that they reflect oftentimes with what they say and what they don't say is that they are still very much fearful, like extra fearful of China. They consider China to be a really scary, like they're still afraid of Chinese dominance. Why are you talking of US, China as masters? What do you mean? Because those are the two different poles right now. Those are the two different global hegemonic superpowers. One has been the only game in town, especially post the dissolution of the USSR, and the other one has grown in spectacular fashion over the course of a very short period of time. Daily reminder that you don't know anything about the stock market. Stay in your lane, little bro. I mean, it's true. I don't. I still maintain the position that the stock market is gambling, and also money is fake. Value is so made up, especially with our global financialized economies. I mean, and I use the example of the fake tweet that caused the market to rebound for and recover $4 trillion in value over the course of an hour, only to have it evaporate once again, as the perfect distillation of my argument. Is a perfect example. I do really believe it. Like, it's not, I mean, I said this before. It's like cryptocurrencies is like playing roulette with a blindfold on, versus the stock market is like playing blackjack, where the odds are higher but it's still not in your favor. And also on top of that, there's still the element of It wasn't fake. It was just leaked early, and Trump couldn't take that. I don't think it was leaked early. I think that that was something that they were presenting, and it was a brief moment where, like, I forget who it was, but one of Trump's guys went on Fox News and said, yep, no, Trump is going to do what he's going to do. And then everyone was like, oh, that's enough for us. Yes. And then they just kind of went along with it. But my point is, my point is the very fact that like that can create trillions of dollars worth of value instantly and then only have it like evaporate. That in and of itself is like, it doesn't give me a lot of confidence in the stability of the stock market. I think if this was, this isn't to say that there wasn't a time and place where like the stock market was entirely speculative. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think that just like the heavily financialized global economy has turned it into this thing that operates on confidence. There's still fundamentals behind it for sure. That's why I say it's different than like playing roulette with a blindfold. It's more so playing blackjack. There's a rule book that you can follow. There are people who can count cards. You know what I mean? So there is a way to win. And there are fundamentals. There are basic fundamentals, but like ultimately there is still probability that it's still gambling. Motherfuckers, if your market has substance, then Hasan is no threat, so stop fixing your what? What are you saying? Hasan, it's been an hour. Wrap up the both sides bullshit. I'm so confused. Stop sending me the new no way, no how banger Jay Mershon. Okay, I'm not going to watch it right now.
Just pull up Asia as well. Asian stocks that are seeing tariff reliefs, for example, the Nikkei, up about 9%. But Kate, check this out. Even the Shanghai Composite, right? Chinese stocks also rallying despite the 125% tariff increase. And that indicates to me that Chinese investors saw what Donald Trump did yesterday and are saying to themselves, well, look, this kind of indicates that if the pain is great enough for Americans, be it investors or perhaps later consumers, that Donald Trump is willing to back down, that he is willing to negotiate. So that's why the Shanghai...
Dude. I think anyone that thinks that there's any stability from Donald Trump is on fumes at this point. They're huffing maximalist copium. They're on crack cocaine and fentanyl. They're doing a speedball with crocodile on the side. Donald Trump has demonstrated over the course of this past week alone that he is a madman, hell-bent on destruction and incredibly stubborn and does not give a fuck. Yes, there are moments where he will scale back a little bit, but as demonstrated from the reality that he still tried to functionally create a trade embargo against our largest trading partner, that in and of itself is like, how do you look at that and go, yeah, no, this guy will really scale it back? It's like, no. He said he was going to kill you and then he chopped your leg off. That doesn't mean that you're in a better position overall than before he came into the room. You're legless now. He took one of your legs out. How the fuck can you sit there and be like, well, at least he didn't kill me? Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? You got one leg now. You got a stump. Put down the crack pipe. They're so desperate to be like, this is the problem, okay? This is the problem with like institutionalists, institution defenders, where they're like, this entire thing can't collapse, right? On the whims of a madman. Like, that can't happen. There's no way. And I think people are just going to go to their deaths saying, oh, no, there's surely something that he will respond to. See, he reacted in the way that we wanted him to. It's like, no, he didn't. He actually didn't do that at all. Did you want the art of the deal to be severing trade ties with our largest trading partner and simultaneously applying universal 10% tariffs to all of our other trading partners? Basically a de facto 10% sales tax increase, inflation, automatic inflation. This isn't if you look at the situation, you go, well, this surely spells order. You're insane. You're an insane person. There is nothing orderly about what Donald Trump has done this fucking past week. The only reason why you think there's order is because you want to desperately believe that there is something going on there, that he's responsive to something, anything, and not simply insane.
Shanghai Composite ended the day there in the green.
And on that, that's why there's been a lot of really interesting reporting about how China has been preparing for this for a long time and is ready to unleash even more pain as it could be a very long fight.
One of the funniest aspects of Donald Trump's madness, by the way, and transparent graft, was when he just straight up did insider trading. Like, a bunch of his homies, and we'll find out who, especially those in Congress, when they, in like 9 days, they have to reveal their trade positions. Okay. But the insanity was just right before Donald Trump made his announcement, releasing the tariffs, okay, or putting a 90-day pause, like, people started trading like crazy. That's insane. Now, the expectation there is supposed to be, well, the SEC is going to look into this and they're going to punish these people that are doing insider trading. Donald Trump maybe also could be the first person who's ever done outsider trading as well, which was when he was like, buy now on fucking Truth Social. But